So
Yeah.
where does religion come in with
Well,
this?
with religion, I mean, because religion speaks to judgment or not, or reincarnation, but it speaks to the ultimate in the hereafter experience. Near-death experiences don't give us a great deal of information about ultimate judgment. All right, they don't, because it's not eternity. It's not the end. It is, you basically got your foot in the door to see what the afterlife looks like. If you take a look, for example, at Christianity, the great judgment, where God separates the sheep from the goats, if you will, is like thousands of years into the, like after the end of the world. You know, so essentially, if you take a look at the description of that judgment, what does God say to those people on his left? He says, "Depart from me. You have to go." And where were they before he says you have to go? They're with him. You know, everybody's there. And there comes a time when he says, you know what, based on what you did or didn't do, some of you can't stay. Okay, and I think that's probably what when people who have near-death experiences come back and they say, you know, I figured out what hell was. Hell is seeing that and learning one day that you don't get any, that you got to go somewhere else where you don't get that. Because when you're with that light, when you are with him, let me tell you, it's not like male or female. He's both. He's everything. But everything you ever loved or found attractive about another person, everything beautiful you ever saw, everything you ever fantasized about and longed for is right there. It's like complete completion of everything.
But you have to get
never
to a
want to leave
certain
that.
level. Don't you think you have to get to a certain level to experience that? Are you saying that
No,
it's
everybody
offered,
no.
it's there, but does everybody experience
It's
that?
it's who he is. It is what that's God. That's what it is. That's what he is.
You have to accept him to
When you meet him,
experience
when you
that.
meet him, you experience it. When you meet him, I mean, that's the. I'm just telling you, from the
Yeah.
near-death people, when you meet him, you experience it. And I think that's when the near-death people tell me, and they say, you know, I had one woman, for example, who attempted to commit suicide, and she said she would never try that again, specifically because she realized if she were to succeed, the chance that she might not be able to stay would be hell. To know that. Now, this is not saying what hell, I'm not saying that that's just what hell is. I'm not saying that. I don't know that. Okay, but that's the way they say it, because when it's like having a taste of a warm room and a good meal, and then being thrown out into the frozen ice with no food and saying, guess what, you don't get any. You have to go this other place.
Well, I think that it's very interesting with those who are non-believers to hear this time after time after time, and either deny what's being told or really don't understand. So there's almost a contradiction.
Well, you know, there's a difference between spirituality and religiosity. You know, and
I
think
agree.
certainly,
Absolutely.
you know, in dealing with psychotic patients, we see that all the time, where the temporal lobe is activated and they go into these religious subroutines, and all they talk about is religion, religion, religion. And
But even a normal person, though.
well, I mean, the thing is that you know, being very religious, it does satisfy our desire for neatness and organization. Ritual is gratifying on many levels. Ritual and religious talk don't necessarily equate to spirituality. Spirituality, from what we've learned from near-death experiences, that spirituality is rooted in reality. It's real. I mean, when people meet this God, it's a real experience. It's palpable. It's like you don't think there is a God and that he loves you. You know it, and you know that you have a sense of purpose. You have a purpose. It's offered to you. It's not mandatory that you live it out, but it's offered to you, you know, and that is available. You know, it's not hopeless for you. As long as you're alive, there's a chance that you can take it, that you can turn it around. Now, very often people reject the Christian God or the Judeo God or whatever. They reject because of bad examples that religious people have done. And my grandfather, for example, rejected Christianity. He was a very strongest atheist I ever met, you know, because he was like, he had very bad experiences because of his mother's side of the family. They were pretty hypocritical from what I have heard, and it left such a negative taste in his mouth that he wanted nothing to do. And he spent his whole life denying that. And in fact, on Sunday mornings, we would critique religious television, you know, and he would say, see, they're going to ask for money. See, that just destroys everything they've said, you know, and I heard this all the time. Having negative experience as a young person is one of the big reasons why many people adopt that atheist perspective, because they reject that. Now, in addition, there are a lot of people that just really don't like the idea of Big Brother looking over their shoulder. They don't like the idea that morality is determined by somebody other than them. Okay, that need for control. The thing is, look, if there is no God, then I can pretty much do what I want. I have complete freedom to do as I please. Like Richard Dawkins' bus campaign in England says, there probably is no God, so relax and enjoy your life. The idea is, don't let any religious prohibition stop you from doing anything you really want. There is no such thing as sin. God doesn't care because there is no God. Do what you want. All right, and that's one reason that many people adopt atheism, because they've already gone ahead and done what they want, but then they felt guilty. And they say, well, why do I feel guilty? Well, because I believe in God. Well, you know what? If you eliminate God, I don't have to feel guilty, because I can make any behavior okay because I say it's okay. And God gets in the way of that. And very often, that is probably one of the #1 reasons why people adopt an evangelical atheist perspective, because the battle is not with us, it's with themselves.
But that's with every person, though. The battle is not usually external, but there's always, I mean, you would know, some history of the psychosocial dynamics that places them in the position of being able to accept a thing or not accept a thing, and it's just a lifelong challenge. We understand what afterlife is, as a result of near-death experience, and what to do with it. What do you do with this information? How do you apply it to your life? And how can it change someone else's that is an unbeliever with the experience of afterlife, and just knowing that it's happening all over the world all the time. And it is true. And it can't be denied, because it's actually, there is an actual account of it.
I think that its utility is excellent, but it is limited. I think that it's excellent in that it does destroy the reductionist argument. When the evangelical atheist comes along and says, there's no God, there is no afterlife, you can say, you know what, you're stupid, you're an idiot.
Susan Blackmore says science can also explain something else. Electrical brain scans show that in our last moments, as the brain is deprived of oxygen, the electrical system inside the brain starts to break down. Cells, the neurons, fire frantically at random. And in the part of the brain which governs vision, there are far more cells in the center than at the edges.
Now imagine that you've got lots and lots of cells firing in the middle towards few at the outside. What's it going to look like? Bright light in the middle, fading off towards dark at the outside. I think that's where the tunnel comes from. And as the oxygen level drops, so the bright light becomes bigger and more immediate, and you get this sensation of rushing forward into the light. Now, people say I'm trivializing the tunnel, that it's a warm light, but it would be a warm, loving light if you've also got the endorphins flooding the place.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that we physicians are do you realize that majority of the books written on life after death are written by us? Psychiatrists, cardiologists, one is a radiation oncologist, the last one, Evidence for the Afterlife, written by a radiation oncologist, neurologist. I mean, we are the ones that are reporting this stuff because we see the patients. Are you saying that we're lying? Or are you saying that our patients are lying? Because somebody's lying. That's what they're doing. When they're saying, oh, it's all bull, none of it's real. Really? Who do you think you are? Okay, you're just saying that. So when my patient who had her boyfriend, whose spirit saw her make the 911 call and quoted the 911 call, either she lied or her boyfriend lied or I'm lying. Otherwise, what a coincidence. We have too many of these coincidences. We have too many of these people who are accurately describing events that are remote from their bodies. It's just not, it's not logical. It's not reasonable. Now, so again, where the utility comes in is that when your kid comes home from college and says, guess what I learned in philosophy class? And you can say, that's garbage. So you're basing your entire worldview on what? You're ignoring, this is a very important thing. If human consciousness survives the body, and if their reports of that light, if their report of God are valid, and it looks to be the case, what else does that say about you? You got to think about that. Think about it. Just think about it. And if you question it, read one of the books. There are lots of books on it. I just finished Evidence of the Afterlife, which I thought was very, very good. I read a few books on the subject, and not all of them are great. This one was incredibly good.
Why so?
Well, the number of cases was very impressive. Very often when people do books on near-death experiences, it's based on maybe a couple hundred cases. This was based on thousands of cases from all over the planet. It wasn't just one case or a couple, but but many cases. He broke it down in terms of what percentage experienced the tunnel, what percentage went to the white light, how many people thought the light was God, how many people saw different colors that we don't have here on Earth, and changes in audition and all these things. And so it really gave you a flavor for what is happening, in addition to a lot of the stories. So, I mean, it was very, very helpful. And I think for somebody who's really looking, I think that's a good place to start. It was pretty well written.
Well, I find that much of what you're saying was not mentioned in that debate.
No,
with Hitchens
I
and
think
Harris.
that the rabbis did a very lousy job. I'm sorry, but they got creamed. They were softballs. I mean, they were no match.
What would you have said?
What I'm saying here, I would point out the things, one of the things, for example, Hitchens. In fact, I think I have that clip here. I don't know if we have time do we have time to
I
do
think
the
we
clip?
should, because
Okay. This one is Christopher Hitchens, and he comments on one of the evidences, one of the earlier evidences for near-death experiences, and he talks about the shoe. Here's the clip.
Dinesh D'Souza, who's a frequent debating partner of mine, has written a book about this too, and the most persuasive example from any hospital he's found, and I get it all the time, is a woman who floated out of her body, out of the bed, made a tour of the outside of the hospital, noticed that there was a running shoe on one of the windowsills, woke up, reported it to a nurse whose name we've never been told, and who went and looked, and there was the shoe. Now, if that doesn't prove it, I don't know what does. I could hardly be more reassured if I'd been told that it was able to reunite it with its missing pair. NDE is bullshit. It doesn't count. It's not coming back from the dead, nor is it an account of what happens to you when you're gone. It's what can happen to you with the help of life-preserving scientific medicine while you are still alive.
What he mentions here